Hi. I'm that guy. You may have seen me on this stage doing stand-up comedy. I'm going to tell a story now, which is much different from stand-up comedy. I haven't really rehearsed this a whole lot, but I'm going to give it a go. So I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 8 months here in Lisbon. And it's been part of this whole digital nomad thing, and it was something that Ash started up, and I hopped on with it. And it's been a really crazy ride because I'm not into this whole public speaking stuff. It just kind of happened, and it's been snowballing since then. But there have been some low moments with a lot of the exciting moments and the opportunities that I've had, and so I'm going to go over a pretty shitty moment that happened. A pretty shitty day wrapped in a pretty shitty week. Basically, we started doing this shitty comedy show, and the idea was that it was much more low-key, so that new acts could come on and try out comedy for the first time, or maybe people want to try out new sets or whatever. It's supposed to be really low-key, so it was named the Shitty Comedy Show, which is fucking hilarious. I thought it was genius. And so the first Shitty Comedy Show was coming up, and a few days before the show, I get crazy sick. My stomach is really fucked up. And I ended up having to go to the hospital. And I was really sick. I mean, I woke up in the morning, and I remember I just had this gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach, like somebody was twisting my intestines. And I tried to go and take a hot shower, and like I just sat down in the shower and just let the hot water stream on me, hoping that maybe, you know, some sort of magic would happen from that. And I got out of the shower, and you know, I dried myself off, and I still just felt terrible, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just lay down for a while. So I laid down in bed, and I just wrapped myself in a blanket. And I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I sat up, and I really remember thinking this to myself. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. Like, I need to do something now. And it just started this really long escapade, and it was so bad, and it was shit. I mean, I had diarrhea. It was really bad. It was really shitty, literally a shitty situation. And so I got in an Uber, and I went to the hospital, and I was texting people because I was trying to ask questions, and I remember I actually texted Ash as well because we go to the same hospital, and I didn't know if they had an emergency room, so I was like, hey, you know that hospital? Do they have an emergency room? And he was like, yeah, why? And I was like, yeah, I'm going there now. Like something's wrong. It's not good. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll meet you there. And so I took the Uber there, and I got in. I gave them my ID, and you know they sent me to the right area, and I got into this sort of it almost seemed like a triage area, I guess. And they put me in a chair, and they gave me an IV and all these fluids and all this stuff, and so I was really fucked up though. Like, I was shaking in the chair. There was other people sitting in chairs, and they were looking at me like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, it was really, I felt bad. Like, I was disturbing their nice, peaceful time here in the triage area. And so after all the IVs and stuff, I really did start to calm down, and I felt better, and Ash showed up, and he was taking pictures of me, and I was doing thumbs up and stuff, and we would send them around, and it was fun. It was cool. It was a nice afternoon. But I didn't, I didn't get immediately better. I was still pretty fucked up from the situation, and I can't remember if it was the day before or if it was 2 days before, but it was right before the shitty comedy show that all of this shitty shit started shitting up my fucking day. And so it was really tough. It was really tough. And this whole comedy situation is like really new in Lisbon, and there's not a whole lot of opportunities. So, when they do happen, I really do feel compelled to try and go out there and just do it, because I don't know if we're gonna have another show. I don't know, if a scene is gonna develop and this is gonna be a continuing thing. So I was just like, fuck it, like I have to do something. So the show comes, and I decided to do this this story kind of based on the whole hospital situation. So I just kind of told that whole story, and I made light of it as like the first part of my comedy set. And it was okay. It was okay. I found out later everybody thought that it was just a joke because they didn't believe that like I got diarrhea right before the shitty comedy show. And so that was like part of the whole thing. I was like, yeah, I got diarrhea, and they were like, that was a really, weird story. Where'd you come up with that? And I was like, no, that's my life. I lived that. And I had to add some humor on top of it. So that went okay. And this whole comedy stuff, this is new for me. It's very new. This whole, like, even speaking, publicly is really new. And the whole shitty comedy show happened at a new venue. And, the whole digital nomad stuff, I've been part of the community for, like, about, almost since it started, really. And I noticed that there's different people that go to, like, the Thursday social events, that come to these sorts of speaking events or to the comedy shows. And so I didn't even know a lot of people in the crowd. So I was coming off this like really shitty couple of days, and this very challenging situation for me is developing, and I think that it's going okay. And so I get to this part where I finish my story about my shitty day, and I'm pulling out my phone to tell my jokes, because I don't have a lot of experience like memorizing, and so I pulled out my phone and I look, and it's just blank, and all of my jokes are gone. So I was not having a really great day up to that point. And so now I was in this situation where I was like, okay, I put myself through all of this shit, literally, to come out here and to do this. And now I'm not prepared, and I don't remember my stuff, and I don't know what to do. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take my time. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna do some sort of improvisation. And that didn't go well at all. That was not the best time to figure out that I can't improvise. So I tried a little bit of crowd work, talked to some people in the crowd, and it was bad. Yeah, it was really, like, I remember talking to this one dude. And I looked at him and I asked him a question, and he was literally mid-drink. And so I remember him locking eyes with me, and I was locking eyes with him, and I asked him a question, and he was like, no, I'm just gonna finish my drink. Fuck you. And so I was like, there were so many just weird moments, and I got to this one point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take a second and see if I can remember any of my jokes. And so I just kind of stared off into the distance, and I was like, at any moment, a joke is going to come to me. And I stared off into that distance for almost 58 seconds, we found on the video. So it didn't go too great, and I don't even really remember what happened after that. But I was, I took my time up there. I don't know when these opportunities are going to be here, but I had it right in front of me, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go out there and do something. And so I can usually tell when I've had a really good night. I haven't done it a whole lot, but I've noticed there's a pattern. Like, people will come up to you when you've had a really good show, and you can tell by the number of people that come up to you and tell you the joke that they like and whatever. And I remember going to the bar that night and nobody talked to me. None. It was the first time where I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I feel like I have disturbed the force somehow. So I got my drink and I went back upstairs and I sat outside and a bunch of the comedians were over there and we were just hanging out. And then this one guy, he comes out and he comes over to me and he's like, "Oh man, you were great! You were amazing!" And I was like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?" And like he didn't know that like the whole shitty part was real. Like that was kind of where I keyed into that. Like, people didn't understand that like I was going through a really shitty time, and that was not just a joke. But also, like, he really enjoyed kind of the outlandish shit that I did that made people feel really awkward and uncomfortable, because he was like, man, I could feel them shuffling in their chairs, and like he really enjoyed that shit for some reason. So that was a day where I think most things pretty much fell apart, but damn it, I made his day. and that meant the world to me that day. So he's my super fan. His name is Milton. Is Milton here? So he was my super fan. And so it's really cool. It's really cool to to go through this process and to learn from this. And just to talk with people and hear what they think, and sometimes you hear good things and sometimes you hear bad things, but you got to get out there and give it a try. That's it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.